Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore. Time for another whiskey tasting. Today we're going to be tasting a whiskey that has been highly anticipated. It comes from a distillery that was built in the 1800s as a showpiece and a tourist destination, whiskey tourism, long before whiskey tourism was really a thing. And this was a distillery that was built by Colonel E.H. Taylor and called the Old Taylor Distillery. In 1972, after it passed through some hands and ended up as part of National Distillers, who eventually was sold out to Jim Beam, they shut it down. And this was in 72. It grew weeds and was falling completely into disrepair. And then around 2014, Will Arvin and Wes Murray came in, purchased the property with ambitious plans that ended up costing them a lot more money than they anticipated, but they went in and they totally refurbished that distillery, and it's still using some of that old equipment in there. The fermenters are from National Distillers, so they did what they could to preserve the old and also, upgrade, build, and do what they needed to do to create a whiskey distillery. Now, when I visited, they had not released their bourbon yet, and so when you went on a tour, you were doing a tasting of their gin, but now their bourbon is out, and I'm going to be doing a tasting of it. This is small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, aged 4 years, and this is batch number 1, which was released in March. In May, batch 2 is going to come out. The main difference will be they're both 80 barrel lots. That one is 99 proof. This is 98 proof, so 49% alcohol by volume. And again, when a whiskey comes out, every time I was doing it, talking to somebody about the tours over there and discussing, they'd always say, oh, the bourbon's going to come out, the bourbon's going to come out. So there's quite a bit of anticipation behind this release. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, actually, or watch it, Jerry Daniels of Stone Fences Tours and I count down our top 10 list of places, historic places to visit in Kentucky bourbon country, whiskey related, and both of us gave very high marks to Castle and Key. So we've been really anticipating this release as well. And thank you to Finnerty, I cannot say that, Finnerty18 of Instagram. James, I appreciate you giving me a sample of this since I have not yet found a bottle of this whiskey in my area. So it has a very, very light nose to it. And so it's a struggle to try to pull sense out of it. There's a little bit of a floral vanilla that comes through. Maybe a little bit of honey. The alcohol does kind of tickle your nose hairs a bit as you're trying to draw on it. Caramel. But that floral scent, I think, is the standout. A little apple character maybe in there as well. Or we just generally say stone fruit. Now this is 73% corn, 17% barley, malted barley, and 10% rye. And on the nose, and they use white corn for this. But what's interesting is it does that kind of floral vanilla, almost pushes me towards like a ex-bourbon barrel Scotch kind of a experience on the nose. Just very, very light. I don't know what they're using for the char on their barrels, but it seems like it may be pretty low. Maybe a little grain coming through there as well. It's like I say, it is a struggle to pull a good clear nose out of this. Cheers. I get caramel, vanilla, and orange up front. And then all of a sudden, the rye spice kicks in. And it's fairly strong on the palate, actually. It really does wake up your mouth all of a sudden and say, light experience up front, kind of fruity there in the middle, and then all of a sudden, wow, rye takes over. I'm feeling the bit of a burn here in the chest, known as the Kentucky Hug. That is coming in as well. First time I tasted this, it got a little like a metallic kind of a taste on there, but I haven't gotten that since, so that may have been something with my palate and whatever I had prior to this. I took a very little sip the first time that I had it. I didn't get a big sample, so I babied this quite a bit. There's a biscuity kind of a note in there as well that comes along with it. And the finish is very clean, but not very long. It's there and gone. You'll have that rye explosion, and then it all just kind of cleanly fades away. So I get a sense that this is a whiskey that as it gets more time, it's only going to get better. There is definitely nothing. I've heard some people say they're a little disappointed in it. I've heard some people say that they're amazed by it. I am kind of right in the middle. I'm like, I can see the promise of this. I can tell it's been taken care of in terms of how it was distilled and how it was aged in that barrel. But anytime you're trying to push out a whiskey because you got to start making some money off of it, you're probably not going to be putting out the best product. What you're really not wanting to do is give people a bad first impression. And I don't think this is a bad first impression whiskey. I think this is a whiskey that actually shows a lot of promise, a lot of skill. This would have been developed during the time when Marianne Eaves was at the distillery as their master distiller. She left in 2019, but of course this distillate is coming from her. And then now it has been taken care of through the rest of the process and has achieved what it is achieving right now, which is a very competent whiskey. Ooh, that brings a little bit more of that vanilla and caramel actually on the nose after a sip, and a little baking spice in there as well. So, man, I see a lot of interesting things going on in this glass, and like I say, I think the nose will get stronger the longer it ages, and I don't know, we'll see. This is really for them a chance to kind of introduce to the world, and I think it is a really good introduction. If I were going to rate it on my scale, and this is personal opinion, I just say this is a good whiskey. I don't think this is price point is $50, so it's not overly expensive, and I think it's worth a flyer if you want to taste what is coming out of that distillery. But it'll be interesting to see how the personality of this whiskey evolves over time and what we would call a castle and key whiskey. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a like and also subscribe if you would like to continue to see more of these videos. And until next time, cheers and Slanjava. The more I drink it, the more I like it. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. Some good flavors.